She should have just walked away that night, but curiosity made her step into that room. A young Portuguese waitress in Lisboa had just finished her shift and was heading home. But what she saw inside changed everything. A powerful CEO, bound, bruised, and begging for help. From that moment, her ordinary life turned into a dangerous game of secrets, power, and a kind of love she never expected to find. Let's dive in. Good night, Katerina. Don't oversleep on the bus again, Carla called from inside, grinning as she wiped down the counter. Katerina smirked. That was one time. You people never let things go. Pedro, the kitchen hand, peeked out, his hands still covered in soap suds. One time? Try 5 times. Last time the driver had to wake you up at the last stop. That's because I trust the universe, Katerina shot back, her sarcasm dry as ever. Carla tossed her a small nylon bag. Please throw this in the bin on your way. My bus is about to leave. Katerina caught it with one hand. You owe me coffee for this. Katerina stepped out of the restaurant, letting the heavy door swing shut behind her. It was past 11 p.m., and her shift had left her with aching feet and a mind full of noise. The night air wrapped around her like a cool sheet. She walked slowly, savoring the brief silence after a day of clattering plates and constant orders. She tossed the nylon bag into the bin. That's when she heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound. Not the city's usual rustle. It was low, hoarse, human. Katerina stopped, brows knitting. A drunk? A stray cat? The sound came again, louder this time, a muffled struggle. Her eyes scanned the alley and stopped at the old, rarely used storage shed near the back of the building. The door was slightly ajar. Every instinct screamed, keep walking. Her mother always said, curiosity isn't bravery, it's a gamble. But Katerina was the kind who couldn't leave a cry unanswered. She approached quietly, her sneakers silent on the damp ground. With one quick push, the door creaked open. And there he was. A man sat slumped against a chair, hands bound, a gag over his mouth. His hair was disheveled, his suit wrinkled as though he had been dragged. Katerina's breath caught. Oh my God, who? His head lifted, and in the dim flicker of the single bulb, his eyes met hers. Dark, intense, desperate. She stepped closer, heart pounding. Who are you? He tried to speak, muffled by the gag. She hesitated, her fingers twitching. If I untie you, she whispered, you're not going to hurt me, are you? He shook his head furiously. Slowly, cautiously, she reached for the gag and pulled it down. He coughed, voice raw. Please don't leave me. My name is Miguel Almeida. Someone abducted me. I don't know who they are. Katerina's eyes widened. Miguel Almeida, as in the Almeida family, the business tycoon's heir. He nodded, wincing. My car keys. Pocket, please. I need to get home. My grandmother must be frantic. Her breath caught. This was madness. Still, her fingers trembled as she slipped the key from his pocket, stepping back quickly like the key might burn her. What now? She asked cautiously. My car is nearby. A red one. Please help me get home. My family must be worried sick. Katerina stared at him, heart pounding. What am I even doing? But against every cautious voice in her head, she nodded. All right, but no tricks. Supporting him as best she could, they made their way out of the alley. And there it was, a sleek red sports car gleaming under the dim streetlight. She hesitated, pressing the key fob. The car chirped and unlocked, her eyebrows lifted. Of course, it's this kind of car. They got in, the silence thick between them, the night cold against the windows. His voice was barely a whisper. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you left me there. Don't thank me yet, Katerina murmured. I'm still not sure I should be doing this. For most of the ride, they said nothing. Only the city lights moved across their faces. The mansion gate swung open with a soft mechanical hum. Even at night, the house looked imposing. Tall pillars, sprawling lawns, guards at the ready. As soon as they stepped out, a maid rushed to them. Young master, oh thank heavens. Moments later, an elderly woman rushed forward. His grandmother, her face lined with worry. She wrapped her arms around him tightly. Miguel, where have you been since morning? We've been worried sick. Katerina stepped back. Miguel hugged his grandmother back gently. I was taken. Someone locked me up. But he turned to Katerina, his eyes softening. She found me. She saved my life. His grandmother looked briefly at Katerina with gratitude in her eyes, then turned her attention back to her grandson. Are you sure you're all right, Miguel? Her voice trembled. I'm fine, Avo, he assured softly, placing his hand over hers. I promise you I'll find out who's behind this. I won't let them get away with it. The elderly woman sighed deeply. Your most trusted bodyguard has been searching for you all day. Call him. Let him know you're safe. Miguel nodded, pulling out his phone. His thumb danced across the screen as he dialed. The line clicked and a rough, anxious voice answered. Young master, I'm home. Come immediately, Miguel said, his voice steady now. As he ended the call, his grandmother turned toward Katerina. Her sharp eyes softened. Thank you, my dear. You brought my grandchild back alive. He's the only one I have left. His parents are long gone. Katerina swallowed, her hands twisting around her coat. It's fine, ma'am. I'm just glad I didn't turn back. Honestly, I didn't believe him at first, but now I'm happy I made that choice. You must allow us to repay your kindness, the grandmother said firmly. Ask for anything. You deserve it. Katerina shook her head quickly. No, I need nothing. I need to go home and sleep, that's all. Miguel stepped closer, his tone, eyes serious now. You don't understand. Your life may be in danger from this moment on. Danger? She blinked, startled. Whoever did this may not like that you helped me. They won't just let it go. She straightened her shoulders. I'll be fine. Just make sure you find out who did this. I can guess it's because you're rich. People like you have too many enemies. His lips tightened, but a faint, cold smile touched them. I will find out, I promise. I will repay you whether you ask or not. Before she could answer, the door opened. His bodyguard, Marco, entered, breathless and worried. Young master, we've been searching for you everywhere. Miguel only nodded. I'm safe now, but there's something I want you to do. His voice lowered, eyes flicking to Katerina as she prepared to leave. Keep an eye on her. Protect her with your life. Nothing must happen to her. The bodyguard bowed slightly. Understood. Oblivious of his words, Katerina stepped out into the night, the cool air brushing her cheeks. She walked home quietly, her small studio apartment, waiting like a sigh of relief. Sleep claimed her quickly. She had another shift tomorrow. Meanwhile, across the city in a high-rise office drowned in shadows, a man's temper burned. Rui slammed his fist on the table. What do you mean he's gone? His men bowed their heads. We searched everywhere. He was there, tied up. He vanished. Search all the security cameras in that area, Rui barked. His eyes were cold, sharp as blades. Rui had always despised Miguel, his rival, his obstacle, the man who had always wanted his downfall. He had planned to get back at him that morning and make him pay. Minutes later, his men returned, a laptop in hand. Boss, we found something. The footage played. Dark alley, faint lights, and there she was, a young woman, cautious, brave, pulling Miguel from the shadows. He paused the video, zooming in on her face. So this is the one, he murmured, his voice low, but laced with intrigue. Her features weren't striking in the usual polished sense. They were unpretentious, honest, the kind of face that didn't belong in his world, and that was exactly what irritated him. He straightened. Find out everything about her. The next day, the sun rose over Lisboa like any other. But for Katerina, the air felt slightly heavier. She tied her apron and stepped back into the restaurant as if nothing had happened. But the day had only just begun. Later that day, Rui already got all the information needed. His top lieutenant, Sergio, shifted nervously. Boss, should we handle her? Make sure she doesn't talk. Rui's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. No, Sergio, we don't silence this one. We meet her. Meet her? If she was brave enough or foolish enough to meddle in my game, I want to know what makes her tick. He leaned forward, fingers steepled. The city outside was alive, neon signs flashing, cars crawling along the wet streets. But inside the car, silence weighed, heavily. Miguel sat back, fingers resting against his temple, eyes fixed on nothing. He had the name now. He always knew deep down who it would be, Rui. It didn't even hurt anymore to hear that name. It only felt familiar, like a wound that had never healed because someone kept cutting it open. A year ago, everything between them had turned from competition to war. Miguel had won a multi-billion-euro contract, one that every CEO in Lisboa had fought for, and Rui had lost. It should have ended there. Business rivalry was normal, but Rui never played fair. Miguel's jaw tightened as the memories surfaced, deals sabotaged, whispered lies in boardrooms, allies turning cold. It was one thing to fight him in business, but Rui wanted more. He wanted to hurt him, and he had Rita. Her name still tasted bitter in his mouth. She wasn't just a girlfriend. She was the woman he had been ready to spend his life with. He had the ring in his pocket the night he found out. His bodyguard sent him a photo. Rita kissing Rui in his car. He had told himself it wasn't real. He had trusted her. He wanted to trust her until the next photos came, her walking into Rui's hotel room, the two of them behind the glass window close enough to break him without a word. When he confronted her, she denied it. Of course she did. She called him controlling. She accused him of spying on her. And then she left, not with guilt, not with apology, but with anger. Later he learned Rui broke it off with her too, because it was never about love. It was about the satisfaction of destroying what Miguel loved. Now, the game had turned violent. A few days ago, Miguel exposed Rui's hidden embezzlement, millions stolen under the table. Rui answered the way a viper always does, with fangs. That morning, Miguel was rushing to a meeting. His bodyguard wasn't with him. The van came out of nowhere. Hands grabbed him, ropes cut into his wrists. He fought. He always fought. But when 10 men come for you, fists mean nothing. And now, someone else was in danger. His gaze softened as another name came to his mind, Katerina. She wasn't like the people in his world. No masks, no games, just a woman doing her work, living quietly, yet brave enough to help a man she didn't even know. She could have left him there. She didn't. And that choice had painted a target on her back. Miguel's lips curved in a faint, sad smile. "You didn't even know what you were stepping into, did you?" he murmured to himself. Boss, Marco, his longtime bodyguard, spoke from the driver's seat. "We found her address, small apartment, quiet street, works as a waitress." Miguel nodded. "Good." Marco hesitated. "Do you think Rui knows about her?" Miguel's voice turned cold, steady. "If he doesn't, he will. He always finds the loose thread." There was a pause. "Marco," he said quietly, "from now on, she's my responsibility. You want a team on her?" "No." Miguel shook his head. "Not yet. She's proud, independent. If she sees men watching her, she'll feel caged." Marco glanced at him in the mirror. "Then what's the plan?" Miguel leaned back, eyes drifting shut for a moment. "First, I thank her face to face. Then I make sure Rui never touches her." His hand closed slowly into a fist on his knee. For the first time in a long while, it wasn't about revenge or pride. It wasn't about winning. It was about someone who had risked herself for him, someone who deserved better than the storm coming her way. The next day, the bell above the restaurant door chimed softly as Rui stepped inside, dressed sharply but without his usual entourage, only one bodyguard lingering by the entrance. The air smelled of freshly baked bread and roasted coffee. It was an ordinary place, far below the class he frequented, but there she was, wiping down a table, her hair tied back, eyes clear and watchful. She hadn't noticed him yet. Good. He wanted to observe her first. There was no fear in her body language, just focus, precision. She moved like someone used to carrying her own weight. The manager approached. "Welcome, sir. Where would you like to sit?" Rui's eyes never left Katerina. "That table by the window, and send her to take my order." The manager hesitated. "Katerina, but her." His tone left no room for negotiation. Meanwhile, her colleagues were already whispering about the sharp-looking man in a navy-tailored suit who had just taken a corner seat by the window. "What is he doing here?" Carla whispered, leaning close as they waited for the next order. Pedro peeked over her shoulder. "That's the guy from the news sometimes, right? Rui Mendez. I heard he's dangerous." "Dangerous how?" another server asked, pretending to stack plates while eavesdropping. Pedro shrugged. "Deals with people who don't smile much." Katerina didn't even glance toward the table. "So not our business. Let's just focus on work." Just as she turned away, the manager called her. "Katerina, table 9. He specifically asked for you." She stopped mid-step. "Asked for me?" "Yes," said only you. A ripple of curiosity moved through the staff. Carla's mouth went "oh," her eyes sparkling with intrigue. Katerina straightened her posture, grabbed her notepad, and walked over. Her steps were calm, deliberate, the kind that belonged to a woman who knew her worth, even if her uniform said otherwise. Rui looked up, his fingers drumming on the table. His gaze lingered sharp, assessing. "You're Katerina, right?" "Yes," she replied flatly. "What would you like to order?" "A simple coffee, and maybe some conversation, if that's on the menu." She raised an eyebrow. "We only sell coffee here." A small chuckle escaped his lips. "Feisty." "Direct," she corrected. "Anything else?" "Just your name and why a woman like you works here." Katerina wrote down the order without looking at him. "Because women like me need to eat and this place pays." "Interesting," he leaned forward. "Why do you help men you don't know in the middle of the night?" That made her glance at him just for a heartbeat. "How did he—" She quickly composed herself. "You must have the wrong person." "I never have the wrong person." Minutes later, she placed the coffee in front of him with the same composure. "Your simple coffee. Enjoy." Rui tapped his fingers on the table. "Do you always walk away from a man mid-conversation?" "Only when the man thinks the world revolves around him." His bodyguard stiffened at her insolence, but Rui raised a hand, chuckling softly. "Interesting." He watched her return to her colleagues who were whispering behind the counter, stealing glances at him. She didn't join their curiosity. She just worked, and that made him want her more. From behind the counter, her colleagues were buzzing. "What did he say? Who is he to you?" Katerina, already carrying a tray to the next customer, unfazed, replied, "A customer who thinks the world owes him attention, not my type." "Sergio," Rui murmured as he stood to leave, leaving a crisp note on the table. "Keep your eyes on her. Don't touch her, not yet. Just find her cracks." As he stepped out, the city air hit his face, and for the first time in weeks, a thrill coursed through his veins. This wasn't just about Miguel anymore. This was about the woman who dared to cross his path. The knock on her door came just as the sun was setting. Katerina had just finished a simple dinner and was wiping her hands when she heard it, firm, deliberate. She opened the door slightly, cautious as always, and there he was, Miguel Almeida, dressed in a dark coat. In his hands was a bouquet, a tasteful arrangement of white lilies and soft pink peonies. "How did you find my place?" Katerina said, brows slightly arched. "I have a very persistent bodyguard," he replied with a small, disarming smile. "May I?" She stepped aside reluctantly, crossing her arms as he entered her modest apartment. "You didn't have to bring flowers," she said. "It's the least I could do for someone who saved my life," Miguel replied gently, placing them on her table. His bodyguard, Marco, stood near the doorway like a shadow, scanning the street through the window. "Why are you really here?" Katerina asked finally. Miguel met her eyes. "To thank you, and to warn you." Her lips curved slightly. "Warn me?" "Rui," he said, the name cutting through the air like a blade. He leaned forward, fingers interlaced, eyes meeting hers with quiet gravity. "The men who took me, it wasn't random. It wasn't a robbery. It was planned by someone I've known for years, Rui." At the name, she frowned. "The man from the restaurant," she thought. Miguel continued, "We've been business rivals for a long time. What you saw was part of a larger fight between us, and now that you helped me, he will see you as a loose thread. He may try to use you to get to me." Katerina chuckled. "So I save a stranger and suddenly I'm in the middle of a billionaire feud." She leaned back, unflinching. "Don't worry, I can handle myself." Something about the way she said it, firm, unapologetic, made him pause. This woman wasn't fragile. She wasn't waiting for a prince to fix her life. "I believe you," he said quietly. "Still, let me do this one thing," he said, pulling a small envelope from his coat. "I came to invite you to my birthday this weekend." She blinked. "A birthday party? Me?" "Yes, you. You don't have to come as anyone special. Just come as yourself." Katerina chuckled softly, shaking her head. "I don't have anything to wear to your kind of party." Miguel only smiled. Then let me worry about that. The next morning, just as the first light filtered through her curtains, a knock came again. When she opened the door this time, there was no one, just a large, elegantly wrapped box on the floor. Inside were an elegant dress, delicate heels, accessories, and a letter written in Miguel's neat hand. For the woman who risked everything without asking for anything. Wear this if you decide to come. Miguel. Katerina couldn't help the small laugh that escaped her. Persistent man. The night of the party, the mansion was alive with soft music, expensive laughter, and the clink of crystal glasses. Miguel moved through the crowd politely, but his eyes kept drifting to the entrance, waiting. When Katerina finally stepped in, dressed radiantly, the noise seemed to dim for him. "You came," he said, approaching with an ease that felt strangely genuine for someone of his world. "You didn't leave me much choice," she teased lightly, fingers brushing the fabric of her dress. "Thank you for this. It's beautiful." "You make it beautiful," he replied without missing a beat. Later, she slipped out to the balcony, needing air. The city stretched below like a carpet of stars. Miguel found her there, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "Hiding?" he asked. "Breathing," she said with a small smile. "Parties like this aren't really my world." "Neither are they mine, if I'm being honest," he confessed, leaning against the railing. "I enjoy this more quiet, real." She glanced at him, catching the sincerity in his gaze. "You should be inside. It's your birthday." "I'd rather be here," he said simply. What neither of them knew was that a black car idled a few blocks away. Rui sat with a glass of whiskey, his eyes fixed on the glowing windows of the party. Through the tinted glass, he saw her silhouette on the balcony, her laughter, her poise, the way Miguel stood beside her as if the rest of the world had vanished. His jaw tightened. "So this is how you move your pieces, Miguel," he murmured. "But the game isn't over. Not yet." The night of Miguel's birthday had passed, but the memory stayed with Katerina. After that night, their meetings became more frequent and real. Sometimes he would come to the restaurant, sitting quietly at the corner table, waiting for her shift to end that even her colleagues noticed his presence. Other times, he would call her out for late-night walks along the Rio. Tejo. One night after work, Katerina was wiping down the counter when Miguel came over. He slid into one of the empty seats. "You look tired," he said, eyes warm. "Long day," she admitted. "We had a group of rude customers in here who thought snapping their fingers at waitresses was a sport." His brows furrowed. "Did they touch you?" She laughed softly. "Relax, Prince Charming. I can handle myself." Miguel leaned in, resting his elbows on the table. "Can I ask you something?" "That sounds dangerous," she said, sitting beside him. "What did you want to be before all this?" She blinked, caught off guard. Before all what? This, the restaurant, the bills, the survival. Katerina hesitated, then sighed. "A singer. A singer." His smile grew. "Why am I not surprised?" "Because my voice doesn't match my job," she said with a smirk. "I used to write songs, perform at small cafes, but connections, they opened doors and I didn't have any." That night after she had gone home, Miguel sat in his car. Marco glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "You're thinking something." "I want her to have what she lost," Miguel said quietly. "Find someone in the industry, someone who owes me a favor." "You want her to think you arranged it?" "No," Miguel shook his head. "She doesn't need my pity, just an open door. Whether she walks through it is her choice." A week later, Katerina received a call while sorting receipts at the restaurant. "Miss Katerina?" "Yes. Who's this?" "This is Lisboa Sounds and Records. You sent us a demo a few months ago." Katerina froze. She remembered that demo. She had mailed it almost 6 months back and heard nothing. "We'd like you to come in for an audition tomorrow if possible." Her heart raced. "Tomorrow?" "Yes. We'll send the address to your email." The next day she stood in a soundproofed room with 3 judges watching her, a microphone glinting under the lights. Her palms sweated, but when she closed her eyes and let the first note escape, the world fell away. Her voice was raw, honest. When she finished, the judges exchanged glances. "Where have you been hiding?" one murmured. "Welcome aboard," another said. That night, Miguel appeared at her door with a bottle of wine and a grin. "So?" Katerina crossed her arms but couldn't hide a smile. "I got it, and I know you did something." "All I did was open a door," he said softly. "You walked through it." For the first time in a long time, she let herself laugh, a real, bright laugh that filled the small room. Katerina's life began to change faster than she had expected. Her days were now pulsed with rehearsals, vocal warm-ups, meetings about stage presence, and invitations to perform at small private events. Miguel was always around, but never in a way that smothered. He had become her silent anchor, sometimes driving her home when rehearsals ran late, sometimes just sending a text that said, "Don't forget to eat." Then one evening on the same balcony where they had first spoken, he turned to her with a small velvet box in hand. "Katerina," he said, voice low, steady. "From the moment you pressed that car key, you turned my life upside down, and for the first time, I don't want it any other way." Her breath caught. "Miguel, marry me." The world seemed to still, and slowly, with tears in her eyes and a trembling smile, she nodded. Marriage didn't change who they were. It deepened it. One chilly evening, he showed up carrying a large sports bag. "What's that?" she asked, leaning on the doorframe. "A present," he said with a sly grin. "Or a precaution." He unzipped it and pulled out a pair of boxing gloves. "You want me to fight now?" she asked, half amused, half suspicious. "I want you to protect yourself," Miguel replied. "After what happened, and I'm sure Rui will come sniffing around again, I want you to be able to defend yourself." Katerina arched a brow. "And you're going to be my trainer?" "Why not? I'm a patient teacher." The next hour was a blur of laughter and fumbling stances. Miguel wrapped her hands carefully, demonstrating how to hold her fists, how to shift her weight. "Your wrist," he murmured, stepping behind her, adjusting her arm. "You'll hurt yourself if you hit like that." "I thought I was doing fine," she muttered. "You're doing beautifully," he said, and the way his voice dropped made her heart stutter. She threw a punch. He blocked it easily. "Another," he dodged. "You're enjoying this," she accused, strands of hair sticking to her forehead. "Immensely," Miguel admitted. "Try again." At some point, she lunged forward too boldly, lost her balance, and fell against him. They both stumbled onto the mat, a tangle of limbs and laughter. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. His breath brushed her temple, her palms pressed against his chest. Neither moved. "You're heavy," she said at last to break the tension. "You're warm," he murmured back. The next moment, his lips found hers. Days turned into weeks. Katerina's schedule thickened. Her name began to appear on small banners. Her songs played in cafes. She was no longer just a waitress. She was becoming seen. And that was precisely when Rui returned. Rui was out of the city during those months tending to his shadowed empire. But the moment he returned and heard the news, Miguel and Katerina, the waitress who dared speak back to him, was now Miguel's wife. His fury ignited. His secretary handed him the gossip magazine page. He crumpled it slowly. "Set up a ticket for her next show," Rui said coldly. Katerina's heartbeat was still racing from the thunderous applause that echoed moments ago. She was at the backstage when the sharp sound of commotion sliced through the corridor. Her assistant's frantic voice rose. "Sir, you can't be here." A louder crash followed, her assistant struggling against the firm grip of a man in black. Katerina's steps were swift, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor. She didn't hesitate. "Let her go." Rui turned at the sound of her voice, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across his face. His bodyguard released her assistant at a casual wave of his hand, as though her struggle had been meaningless from the start. "Katerina, always fearless," he said, his tone soaked in amusement. Her assistant started. "Miss, I tried to—" "It's fine," Katerina cut her off, her voice sharp as glass. "Go, I'll handle this." The young woman hesitated, then nodded and scurried away, leaving the air charged between them. Rui stepped closer, his tailored suit gleaming under the backstage lights, his gaze unwavering. "I came to congratulate you in person. Your marriage and that performance, it was powerful." Katerina folded her arms, her eyes like sharpened steel. Keep your congratulations. I didn't ask for them. A flicker of something, amusement, desire, maybe both, passed across his face. And that, he said lowly, is exactly why you have me stuck. Your fire, your boldness. Women smile at me. They bend, they chase. You. He let the word hang, thick with meaning. You dare to reject. I dare because I can, she replied, voice calm, cutting. I have a husband. I have a life. Stay away from both. His jaw clenched, but the smirk didn't fade. You think you're untouchable because Miguel stands behind you, he said, his voice low, silk wrapped over steel. But understand this, Katerina, his shadow won't always cover you. She didn't flinch. Is that a threat? It's a promise, he replied, stepping closer until the space between them crackled with an unseen war. I'll give you 1 week, 7 days. Make the right choice and come to me willingly. Her lips curved in defiance. And if I don't? His expression hardened, a sharp edge now in his voice. Then I stop being nice, and I promise you the storm I bring won't be gentle. Katerina tilted her chin, her eyes unwavering as she squared her shoulders. You may have had your way once, seducing Miguel's ex to hurt him. But if you think you can play the same game with me, you've chosen the wrong woman, she said, her voice sharp as a blade. I will never leave my husband. You don't even understand what real love is. Love is sacrifice, something you'll never possess, something you'll never feel. That's why no matter what you try, you will never win. Katerina stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor as she brushed past him without another word. But in an instant, his hand shot out, fingers clamping around her wrist. She spun back, reflex sharp as lightning. Miguel's training kicking in, her arm twisted, her other hand already mid-swing to strike. But Rui caught her mid-motion, his grip firm, his other hand sliding around her waist as he pulled her closer. The space between them collapsed in a heartbeat. She could feel his breath, warm, steady, dangerous, ghosting across her skin. Katerina, he murmured, voice low and heavy with unspoken threat and desire. That fire in you, that's exactly why I can't stop thinking about you. She tensed, her free hand pressing against his chest, her eyes blazing. Let go of me, she hissed, her voice sharp enough to cut. For a moment his fingers lingered, testing her resolve, savoring her fury. Then he released her slowly, his lips curling into a dangerous smile. 1 week, he whispered, stepping back with a predator's calm. After that, Katerina, I don't play nice. Katerina shut the door behind her, the faint scent of rain still clinging to her dress. Miguel was pacing in the living room. What happened, Katerina? His voice was calm, but the storm was already there beneath the surface. She set her bag down, exhaled slowly, and told him everything. Every word Rui had said backstage, every step he took toward her, every threat laced in that cold, poisonous smile. Miguel's expression darkened like thunderclouds. He put his hands on you? His voice dropped into a dangerous growl. I'll go find him right now. I'll finish this once and for all. No! Her voice rose sharp and steady, cutting through his fury. Miguel, listen to me. She moved closer, her hands on his chest, feeling his heartbeat race beneath her palms. That's exactly what he wants. It could be a trap. I handled him. I told him where I stand. Please don't give him the satisfaction of pulling you into his game. His hands clenched into fists, but her eyes, clear, determined, unwavering, held him still. You handled him? He asked, searching her face. Yes, I did. Her voice softened, but it didn't waver. You have to promise me, Miguel. Please don't go to him. Silence stretched between them. Then slowly he let out a breath, the fury still burning, but now banked like a smoldering fire. Fine, he said at last, his voice rough. But Katerina, if he as much as breathes near you again, you call me immediately. Promise me that. I promise, she whispered, nodding. Good. His fingers brushed her cheek, his thumb resting against her lips as if to make sure she was really there, safe, breathing. Marco will follow you everywhere from now on. No argument. She didn't argue. Instead, she leaned up, kissed him softly, gratefully, letting her lips linger against his until the tension in him began to build. 2 nights later, Miguel was invited to a high-profile billionaire's party. Networking, business alliances, the usual dance of the wealthy. "You're coming with me," he had told Katerina. They got down from the car, his hand resting on her waist as they entered the gleaming hall. The party was alive with soft jazz, chandeliers glittering like constellations, laughter echoing against marble walls. And then he saw them. Rita, his ex, the woman who had once worn his promise on her finger before tearing it off for Rui's charm. And next to her, Rui himself, his gaze already locked on them from across the room. Miguel's arm tightened around Katerina instinctively, possessively, protectively. Rita's heels clicked as she approached, her smile sweet, but her eyes sharp. "Well, Miguel," she purred. "Long time no see, and this must be the famous Katerina." Katerina felt Miguel's fingers curl around hers just a little more firmly. Rita's smile lingered, that polished curve of lips that had once fooled him, but now only reminded Miguel of betrayal. Katerina, standing gracefully by his side, returned the smile, gentle but unreadable. "Yes, I'm Katerina," she said, her voice calm yet edged with quiet strength. "And you are?" "Rita," she replied almost too eagerly, "an old acquaintance of Miguel." Miguel's arm around Katerina's waist tensed just slightly. "Old is the right word," he said flatly, his eyes not leaving Rita's face. Before another word could settle between them, a smooth, low voice cut through the hum of the party. "Miguel, Katerina, Rui." He emerged from the cluster of guests like a shadow slipping through light. "Interesting seeing you both here," he said, his gaze resting too long on Katerina. "I must say the two of you make quite an entrance." Miguel's hand gripped her waist tighter, pulling her a fraction closer. "This is a business gathering," he said evenly. "Not your stage, Rui." Rui chuckled softly, almost indulgent. "Everything is a stage, Miguel. You should know that by now." Katerina's eyes met his, bold and unwavering. "You don't intimidate me," she said simply. That made his smile deepen. "No, you never have. That's why you stand out, why I remember you." "Stop." Miguel's voice was calm, but his warning was clear. "Whatever you're trying to do here, it ends now." Guests nearby began to glance their way, sensing the silent tension crackling between them like static beneath the chandelier lights. Rita watched with a faint smirk as though enjoying the sparks. Rui lifted his glass slightly toward Katerina. "Enjoy your evening," he murmured. "I hope it's not your last peaceful one." And then he stepped away, disappearing back into the glittering crowd. Katerina exhaled slowly, only then realizing how tight Miguel's arm had been around her. "He's playing a game," she whispered. Miguel's jaw tightened. "And I intend to win." Minutes later, the camera flashes went off in a steady rhythm as Miguel stepped forward, adjusting his suit with ease. Before he left Katerina's side, he leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss on her lips, deliberate and tender. Rita stood only a few feet away, her gaze fixed on them like a hawk watching its prey. When Miguel finally walked off toward the photographers, Rita slid closer, her smile too polished to be genuine. "You two, you really make a lovely couple," she began, her tone light but edged with something sharper. "You know, Miguel and I, we were madly in love once. He was going to propose to me. It wasn't long ago. Just a little misunderstanding pulled us apart. But it's not too late, you know. We could still—" Katerina's lips curved into a polite, almost disarming smile. "It's okay to admire my husband," she interrupted softly. "But, Rita, always put this in your skull. He is my husband, not your ex. He trusted you before, and you broke that trust by giving yourself to another man." Rita's face faltered. "That's not—" "Don't!" Katerina's voice sharpened, cutting clean through her words. "Don't even move near him again. You have no idea what I would do to protect him." For a moment, silence hung between them, thick and heavy. Rita blinked, startled. "I need to excuse myself," Katerina added, her voice once again calm, and she walked toward the restroom. Across the room, Miguel's eyes followed her every step. He had seen Rita's approach, seen the exchange of glances, and now watched Katerina leave with a poise that only deepened his curiosity. He started to move after her, instinct pulling him, but a voice called his name from the stage. "Mr. Almeida, we'd like you to give a few words." He hesitated, glancing at the hallway where Katerina had disappeared, but duty won. Katerina stepped out of the restroom moments later, only to find Rui leaning casually against the wall, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "You look stunning tonight," he said, his voice dripping with mock admiration. "I can't wait for you to come over. 5 days left." Katerina didn't flinch. "Keep dreaming. It's never happening." She moved to walk past him, but his hand shot out, clasping her wrist, not painfully, but possessively. "Don't test me, Katerina. Let her go." Miguel's voice thundered from behind them. Rui raised both hands, stepping back with a low chuckle, the smirk never leaving his face. "Always the hero, Miguel. Careful, heroes fall too." Miguel moved closer, fists clenched, about to swing, but Katerina grabbed his arm. "No, not here. It's okay." Rui's laughter echoed softly as he disappeared back into the crowd, leaving the air sharp with tension. At home, the silence between them was heavier than usual. Miguel loosened his tie, his eyes dark with thoughts. "He won't stop," he said finally, his voice low, firm. "He's made this personal. We need a plan." Katerina placed her hand over his. "A plan? There must be something, evidence, something in his house, his records. I exposed him before, but not enough." He twisted his way out of it. Miguel's jaw tightened. "This time, I need something he can't deny, something that will ruin him completely." Katerina's eyes softened, though worry lingered in them. "Then we'll find it together." Miguel looked at her, then really looked at the woman who had risked herself for him, who faced down his enemies without fear. He cupped her cheek, pressing his forehead to hers. "I won't let him hurt you," he whispered. Katerina sat quietly on the bed as Miguel slept beside her, one arm resting protectively across her waist. His words replayed in her mind. There must be something in his house, his records. She turned her head slightly to look at him. This man who had risked his empire to protect her, who had chosen her over power, wealth, and old ties. If he keeps going after Rui himself, he'll be destroyed. A cold realization pressed against her chest. Rui would not stop. He wanted to ruin Miguel, not just his business, but his life, his marriage, everything. And if she did nothing, the man she loved would become a casualty of someone else's obsession. Her fingers tightened on the blanket. She thought about telling Miguel, about saying, "Let me go, let me get close enough to get the proof." But she could already hear his answer, fierce and unyielding. "Never, not you. Not at that cost." So she made a choice. The next afternoon, Marco drove Katerina to the luxury shopping district, the sleek black car gliding through the city traffic. Miguel had insisted she take him along after the last incident with Rui. Her safety was his obsession. When they arrived, Marco stepped out first, scanning the area before opening her door. "I'll be right here, ma'am," he said, his usual sternness in place. Katerina smiled lightly, holding her shopping list in her hand. "Don't worry, Marco. I just need to pick up a few things. It might take a while, so don't stress yourself." Marco nodded firmly. "Take your time. I'll be outside." She entered the boutique, her heels clicking softly against the polished marble floor. Inside, she greeted the attendants, her charm effortless, but her mind running on a completely different track. As the shopkeeper showed her a new collection, Katerina leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Excuse me, do you have a service exit? Somewhere I can leave from the back?" The attendant blinked in surprise. "Yes, ma'am, but that's for staff." Katerina's warm but firm gaze held hers. "I won't cause trouble, just point the way." Reluctantly, the woman nodded and gestured toward a narrow hallway behind a velvet curtain. Katerina took a deep breath. She glanced once toward the glass door where Marco stood, ever watchful, and whispered, "I'm sorry, Marco, but this is something I have to do alone." She slipped through the hallway, her footsteps quick but silent, and emerged into a dimly lit alley where a discreet car she had arranged earlier was waiting. By the time Marco checked his phone and looked back through the boutique window, she was gone. Katerina's heart pounded as the car slowed before Rui's towering glass-walled estate. The sky was bruised with the colors of a fading evening, neon reflections rippling across the pavement. She could still feel the echo of her promise to Miguel in her chest, a promise she was breaking for him. The gates swung open without question. He had been expecting her. As she stepped out, her heels struck the marble pathway. The door opened almost instantly. And there he was, Rui. "Well, well, look who decided to come," he said, voice low and dripping with triumph. "I almost thought you wouldn't be brave enough." Katerina straightened her back, her red lips unmoving except for a faint cold smile. "Don't flatter yourself, Rui. I didn't come here for you. I came to end this once and for all." He stepped aside, letting her in, his eyes roaming over her like he was memorizing every defiant detail. The door shut behind her with a soft, final click. To be continued. Thank you for watching episode 1. What a night for her. Now her life is tangled with a ruthless crime boss. Will she make it out of this alive? Or has she just stepped into a world she can never escape? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss episode 2. It's going to get even more intense.